Crisis on Infinite Earths, the landmark DC Comics event that started it all, first published in April 1985, written by Marv Wolfman and illustrated by George Perez. DC's multiverse had become incomprehensibly complicated by the mid-1980s, with countless parallel Earths creating continuity nightmares that confused readers and writers alike. DC hired a researcher to spend 2 years reading every single comic they'd ever published, just to map out the chaos before attempting to fix it. The story centers on the Anti-Monitor, a being of antimatter who seeks to destroy all positive matter universes, consuming Earth after Earth in a wave of annihilation that literally erased entire realities from existence. The Monitor, his benevolent counterpart, assembles heroes and villains from across the multiverse to fight this existential threat. But even he's murdered partway through. The stakes escalated constantly. Barry Allen, the Flash, sacrifices himself, running faster than ever before, becoming the lightning bolt that created him in the first place while destroying the Anti-Monitor's antimatter cannon. Supergirl dies in battle against the Anti-Monitor's shadow demons, perishing heroically to save her cousin, Superman. Hundreds of characters died. The solution required collapsing the entire multiverse into a single, unified Earth, erasing the complex web of alternate realities, and creating one cohesive DC universe where characters like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman received updated origins for the modern age. The series didn't just reboot continuity, it popularized the concept of large-scale crossover events in comics, setting a template Marvel and DC still follow today. Crisis on Infinite Earths divided DC's history into pre-crisis and post-crisis eras, making it the most influential event in the company's history. By the way, if you like DC Comics content like this, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thank you very much. 0 Hour, Crisis in Time. Published from September to October 1994, 0 Hour addressed continuity issues that Crisis on Infinite Earths hadn't fully resolved, and in some cases had created. Written and illustrated by Dan Jurgens, the event centers on the literal collapse of time itself, as temporal anomalies cause characters to age rapidly, disappear entirely, or be erased from history. The villain Extant manipulates time to destabilize reality, but the real threat comes from Hal Jordan, who'd become Parallax after the destruction of Coast City drove him to madness and despair. Hal absorbed the power of the Central Power Battery, killed the Green Lantern Corps, and decided the only way to fix everything wrong with the universe was to remake it from scratch at the moment time began. His intentions were arguably good, wanting to create a better world without pain or loss, but his methods required erasing the current universe and everyone in it. Heroes from different eras unite at the vanishing point, the end of time itself, to stop both Extant and Parallax before the countdown to 0 Hour eliminates existence. The climax sees Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and heroes from the Justice Society and Legion of Superheroes confronting Parallax in a desperate battle where defeat means never having existed at all. The resolution streamlines DC's continuity, erasing certain characters and events while preserving others, but it also marks a dark turning point for Hal Jordan, transforming one of DC's greatest heroes into a tragic villain consumed by grief. 0 Hour's impact on DC's timeline was significant, providing a fresh start that acknowledged some stories needed updating while maintaining respect for DC's history. Identity Crisis. Published from June to December 2004, Identity Crisis wasn't a reality-altering crisis, but a deeply personal one that shattered the moral foundation of DC's heroes. Written by Brad Meltzer with art by Rags Morales, it begins with the murder of Sue Dibney, wife of the elongated man, shocking the superhero community and triggering an investigation that exposes dark secrets. The story reveals that years earlier, Dr. Light raped Sue Dibney on the Justice League satellite, and when the League caught him, they made a decision that haunts them still. Zatanna used her magic to erase Dr. Light's memories of the event and his knowledge of the heroes' identities, essentially lobotomizing him to protect their families. But that wasn't the only mind wipe. When Batman discovered what they'd done, the League erased his memories too, violating the trust of their own teammate to hide their actions. The investigation uncovers that the murderer is Jean Loring, ex-wife of Ray Palmer, the Atom, who'd become mentally unstable and used Ray's technology to kill Sue and others in a twisted attempt to bring Ray back to her life. The fallout fractures the Justice League, with Batman's trust in his teammates permanently damaged, Superman questioning whether they're still heroes if they compromise their principles, and Wonder Woman facing criticism for her increasingly pragmatic approach to threats. Identity Crisis asked uncomfortable questions about power and morality. If heroes can rewrite minds to protect themselves, where's the line between justice and tyranny? The event's influence rippled through DC for years, setting up conflicts that exploded in Infinite Crisis. Infinite Crisis. Published from December 2005 to June 2006, Infinite Crisis serves as a direct sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths, exploring what happened to the heroes who survived the original crisis but were trapped in a paradise dimension. Written by Jeff Johns with art by Phil Jimenez, the story begins with the return of Earth 2's Superman, Alexander Luthor, and Superboy Prime, who've been watching the post-crisis DC universe and grown disgusted with what they saw. The heroes had become darker, more violent, more willing to kill. Batman became paranoid and controlling with his brother Eye satellite. Superman grew detached from humanity, and Wonder Woman killed Maxwell Lord on live television to stop his mind control. These aren't the heroes Earth 2's Superman remembered, and he's convinced that merging the multiverse was a mistake that needs to be undone. Alexander Luthor manipulates events from behind the scenes, creating the secret society of supervillains and building a tower designed to recreate the multiverse by colliding multiple realities. Superboy Prime, driven by rage and nostalgia for a simpler time, becomes a terrifyingly powerful antagonist who kills heroes brutally, viewing the current DC universe as a corruption of what comics should be. The event forces Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman to confront their failings and rediscover what makes them heroes. The climax involves massive battles across multiple realities, with Superboy Prime's rampage through Smallville and Metropolis, causing devastating casualties before he's finally stopped. The resolution restores a new multiverse, though not in the form Alexander Luthor intended, setting the stage for future stories while proving that some problems can't be fixed by erasing them. Final Crisis. Published from July 2008 to March 2009, Final Crisis represents Grant Morrison's metaphysical masterpiece, a story so layered with concepts that readers still debate its meaning. The event centers on Darkseid's ultimate plan to enslave all of reality using the anti-life equation, a mathematical formula that eliminates free will by proving life has no meaning. The story begins with the murder of Orion, Darkseid's son, and escalates as Darkseid's consciousness descends to Earth through human avatars, spreading the anti-life equation and transforming billions into mindless servants. This is literally the day evil won, with heroes falling one by one as Darkseid's influence corrupts reality itself. Batman confronts Darkseid with a Radion bullet, a weapon lethal to new gods, and apparently dies after being hit by Darkseid's Omega beams, though he's actually sent backward through time. Superman embarks on a cosmic journey to retrieve the essence of the original new gods, racing against time as reality collapses under Darkseid's weight. The Flash, Wally West, runs faster than ever to outrun death itself and inspire hope in others, while the multiverse's structure begins unraveling. The climax sees Darkseid's physical form destroyed, but his essence threatens to drag all existence into a black hole of despair. Superman uses the Miracle Machine, a cosmic artifact from the future, to sing reality back into existence, restoring hope and free will. Final Crisis concluded the Crisis trilogy that began with Crisis on Infinite Earths, bringing closure to plot threads spanning decades while exploring profound themes about stories, hope, and the resilience of the human spirit against nihilism. Flashpoint. Published from May to August 2011, Flashpoint fundamentally changed DC Comics forever, despite not having Crisis in its title. Written by Jeff Johns with art by Andy Kubert, the story begins with Barry Allen waking up in a world that's completely wrong. He has no speed powers, his mother is alive, and the Justice League never formed. This alternate timeline resulted from Barry traveling back in time to prevent his mother's murder, and that single change created a butterfly effect that shattered history. Thomas Wayne became a brutal gun-wielding Batman after Bruce was killed instead of his parents. Superman's rocket was intercepted by the government, keeping him imprisoned his entire life in a facility where he never developed his powers. Wonder Woman and Aquaman are at war, their conflict devastating entire continents and pushing the world toward nuclear apocalypse. The story isn't about fighting a villain as much as Barry realizing he caused this nightmare by selfishly changing the past. With Thomas Wayne's help, Barry recreates the accident that gave him powers, regaining his speed through a process that nearly kills him. The revelation comes from Reverse Flash Eobard Thawne, who explains he manipulated events to create this fractured timeline as punishment for Barry, turning Barry's greatest heroic impulse, saving his mother, into an act that doomed the world. Barry faces an impossible choice: restore the timeline, accepting his mother's death and all the pain that came with it, or let this broken world continue existing. He chooses to reset reality, but the act of doing so doesn't restore the original timeline. Instead, it creates the New 52, a complete reboot of DC's continuity that reimagined characters and compressed the universe's history. Flashpoint proved that even small changes to the past carry catastrophic consequences, and its impact on DC Comics lasted for years, fundamentally restructuring the entire DC universe. Heroes in Crisis. Published from September 2018 to May 2019, Heroes in Crisis took a different approach to the Crisis concept, focusing not on cosmic threats, but on the psychological toll of heroism. Written by Tom King with art by Clay Mann, the story centers on Sanctuary, an ultra-secret facility created by the Trinity, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, where heroes could receive treatment for PTSD and trauma caused by years of fighting cosmic horrors and losing loved ones. The event begins with a massacre at Sanctuary, with numerous heroes found dead, and Harley Quinn and Booster Gold as prime suspects. The investigation becomes a murder mystery that forces heroes to confront uncomfortable truths about mental health, privacy, and the cost of constantly saving the world. As Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman investigate, confessions from Sanctuary patients are leaked to the media, exposing the private pain of heroes who'd never spoken publicly about their trauma. The revelation comes in the final issues. Wally West caused the massacre accidentally. Still struggling with having his family erased during the New 52 reboot and feeling alone in his grief, Wally broke into Sanctuary's AI system to find out if other heroes suffered like he did. The overwhelming information triggered a Speed Force explosion he couldn't control, killing everyone at the facility. In desperation, he altered the crime scene to frame Booster or Harley, buying himself time to fix his mistake. The story concludes with Wally turning himself in, recording a confession that exposes his secret identity and his actions. Heroes in Crisis received mixed reactions, with many praising its exploration of PTSD, while others criticized its treatment of Wally West in the resolution. Regardless, it added psychological depth to the Crisis concept, proving that sometimes the greatest threats come from within. Dark Crisis on Infinite Earth. Published from June to December 2022, Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths brought the Crisis concept full circle while pushing it forward. Written by Joshua Williamson with art by Daniel Sampere, the event begins with the apparent death of the Justice League, leaving Earth vulnerable to an assault by DC's greatest villains, led by Deathstroke, and powered by a mysterious force called the Great Darkness. This isn't Deathstroke acting out of greed or revenge. He's been corrupted by an ancient cosmic entity that predates creation itself. The Great Darkness is revealed to be the primordial opposite of the light, responsible for manipulating events throughout DC's history, possessing beings like the Anti-Monitor, Superboy Prime, and others to repeatedly attempt ending all existence. Pariah, the survivor of the original Crisis who was cursed to witness every universe's destruction, has been driven mad by eons of suffering and now serves the Great Darkness, creating pocket universes where he's trapped the Justice League in perfect worlds, tailored to their desires. The surviving heroes, primarily the younger generation, including Nightwing, John Kent, and the Titans, must step up to fight Deathstroke's army while uncovering Pariah's plan. The story reveals that the Great Darkness has been fighting a war against creation since the beginning of time, with every Crisis event being another battle in this eternal conflict. The climax involves multiple fronts: rescuing the Justice League from their prison worlds, stopping Deathstroke's corrupted forces, and confronting the Great Darkness itself. Dr. Light, connected to the DC Multiverse's fundamental structure, combines her powers with the Speed Force to repel the Great Darkness, healing reality and restoring the infinite multiverse that was destroyed in the original Crisis on Infinite Earths. Dark Crisis marks the return of DC's Infinite Earths, ending the era of limited multiverses and restoring the vast cosmic scope that existed before 1985, while setting the stage for DC's Dawn of DC publishing initiative. In conclusion, every DC Crisis event reshaped the universe in fundamental ways. Crisis on Infinite Earths collapsed infinite realities into one, creating the modern age of comics. Zero Hour streamlined the timeline when continuity became tangled again. Identity Crisis exposed the moral compromises heroes made in secret. Infinite Crisis brought back the multiverse after heroes realized one Earth wasn't enough. Final Crisis represented the day Evil won and heroes sang a reality back into existence. Flashpoint erased everything and created the New 52 through time travel gone wrong. Heroes in Crisis explored the psychological cost of heroism through tragedy. Dark Crisis restored the infinite multiverse and revealed the Great Darkness behind everything. These weren't just big events with explosions and team-ups. They were DC Comics, examining its own history, fixing problems, making bold changes, and asking what heroism means when reality itself is malleable. Each Crisis built on what came before, creating a tapestry of interconnected stories spanning decades. Now to you, which DC Crisis event had the biggest impact on the universe? And which one deserves more recognition? Comment down below as you leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more deep dive videos like this.